Yeah, wow. All right. Hey, I'm Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime streaming show where we watch old 16 millimeter films. And that was a very short clip that we just watched. 150 mile per hour train test. It was what was written on the can. We don't know what it was from. We don't really know a whole lot. But what I do know is it was super quick, so I didn't get a chance to get everything kind of set up. So it was like, oh gosh, I gotta hurry up. Anyways, I hope everybody had a great, excuse me, holiday weekend. We had a great time relaxing. And we're back. Got so many more films to watch. And I'm happy that you guys are there to watch them with us. This next film is so these two previous films were from the Oregon Archive, which is based in Pittsburgh. Greg Pierce is one of the founders, and he and I have been over the last couple of years scanning films, and so these are some films that we have scanned. They're fascinating things, like those weird little blips, some of the Mogul Brothers silent stuff, and things like this, these weird kind of sponsored films. This one is the title's clip, but it's The Pictures, The Thing. Enjoy.
Our story begins 93 million miles away on the surface of the sun. Every instant, light leaves from here, and a few minutes later it lands on the Earth. From any object you look at, it reflects back into your eyeballs. And by a wonderful instantaneous nerve process, a picture forms on a screen in your brain. The image is translated upside down, but a further refinement of the process flips it right side up so fast, you never know the difference. As long as you keep looking, the picture is there. But if you shut your eyes, it is gone. For centuries, people had no other pictures than the reflected images of life. In trying to figure some way of recreating the things they saw, they invented art. In time, art developed, but it was stationary. Crowds used to gather when the old masters were exhibited. So hungry were they to see pictures. Then, in 86, 13 years before the introduction of photography, a process of pictures was invented. This. Look on a newsstand today and see the results of that obscure invention, 1826. Look around you at the civilization of the 20th century and see its effects. A picture introduces you to the inventions and developments you will want next. The manufacture and distribution of products is the heartbeat of modern business. The use of photo engraving has done more to create modern business than any other single agency. It is one of the commonplace miracles, but one of the greatest of all human inventions. Here may be the picture of the next refrigerator you own, or a picture of the cake you'll be eating for dinner tomorrow. This may be your next pair of shoes. Here, a thirst quencher sometime today. Pictures of things created for you by your fellow Americans. How would we communicate with each other if it were not for advertisements? What would advertising be without pictures? It looks like an everyday scene somewhere in the USA. You get the feeling of sunlight and air. Maybe it takes you back. The air, the sun, the nostalgia are really compounded of umpteen thousand infinitesimal dots. Dots that pick up ink in the press and transfer them to paper. This is a half-tone photo engraving, close up. This is what an engraver has to think in terms of: dots. The principle isn't hard to explain. It's the work that takes a lot of doing. The copy is photographed with a glass screen in front of it. Glass etched with up to 133 or more perfect lines to the inch. This forms the picture in a pattern of dots. The picture is photo-printed on a metal plate. The plate has been treated so the image can be turned to an acid-resistant surface by heating. The rest is etched away by acid. This cuts out everything but the dots, which can thus pick up ink and print. The same is true for 4-color pictures, except that you have to have a plate for every color. And they must register one on top of the other. Weeks or months before you see an ad in print, the picture begins as a photograph, a drawing, or a painting, which is finally ready as copy for the engraver. The captured scene is starting on its journey to millions of printed pages. The plate is first of all a negative. For a lot of jobs, they still prefer to make wet plates. Hand craftsmanship shows up at the very beginning. Try juggling a clear glass while you flow on collodion as a base. And finally, the light-sensitive nitrate of silver. For other jobs, commercially produced plates or strip film are used. If it is a line drawing to be photographed, the lines themselves will print after the surrounding metal has been etched away, so no screen is necessary. But for halftone work, the screen is the device that makes possible the texture, the lights and shadows to give a picture life. For a black and white halftone, only one negative is needed. But for 4-color work, there must be a negative for each color. One is shot through a filter that subdues all but the yellow tones. There is another for the blue, one for the red, and one for the black plate. The halftone screen is angled differently for each color negative, so that the dots will not superimpose each other. It is all worked out on a precision basis. Scaling is another measure of accuracy. The negatives must be the exact size of the final plates, the picture as you see it. The photo engraver needs skill and know-how, developed carefully over long years of practice, and a host of elaborate equipment. Things like this help bring you the pictures that introduce you to new facets of life every day. Special prisms for reversing the negatives as they are exposed, because the plates have to read backwards for printing impressions. A great collection of finely etched halftone screens that produce big dots for grades of paper like newsprint, fine dots for fine papers. Special equipment for photographing color transparencies, gallery cameras, darkroom cameras, all of it represented in the pages you look at every day. But when the negatives are produced, the really detailed work has only begun. Now it is the job of the strippers. The picture is a thin sheet of collodion, and it is peeled off the glass. Working with the layout, the key drawings and copies, the stripper builds up the final negative from the collodion components, which he cuts out with a knife as sharp as a scalpel. When you look at an ad, think of these fellows and their work, one of the basic jobs of civilization. and you may not have known that it existed. Different types of plates call for different operations, but when you see the final result of any of them, it may introduce you to new possessions. Maybe a week or more has gone by up to this point, and now comes the operation of printing the negative on metal. The plate has to be coated with a bichromate solution that will fix the image on metal. The plate is dried in a special whirl dryer. This is like making a photographic positive print, only the bichromate or emulsion is so slow it requires a long exposure under arc lights. Water develops out the image, and if you need to check it at this point, aniline dye will bring it up. The burning operation hardens the image to produce an enamel that is acid resistant. In general, etching will take place between the dots and wherever the metal is bare. Halftones, black and white or color, are made on copper. Now you might say that the job is just properly begun. Etching is the next step, and the plates move to another crew of craftsmen who have to be able to read dots as easily as you read the headlines. In the etching machine, which works just the opposite to electroplating in that it eats away metal, they make the first bite. Just barely enough this time to see how things are going and get a little depth in the plate. This is what they call staging, because the work requires so many stages. After the plate has been powdered, they work it over with a special acid-resistant ink. They regulate tones and effects by holding back certain spots and areas, then hardening of the ink on the gas burner, etching some more in the iron solution, repowdering, preparing for another stage. Keeping up the process as they translate what they see in the copy into the effects on metal that will eventually produce a perfect reproduction. It may take several days of this tedious work before the etcher feels he has captured the picture on metal. In color plates, there are tricky decisions to make, like bringing up the yellow under all the colors that call for solid yellow undertone. But black and white plates aren't easy either. This is one modern operation which cannot depend on machinery. There is still the deep etching operation. And the process that involves dragon's blood, an acid-resistant substance made from a Malayan palm tree. As the bite goes deeper, there is a chance of undercutting. So they build up the sides by brushing on this special red powder. One brushing in each direction, and sometimes more. After a plate is etched deep enough, it still isn't finished. This is the job of the finishers. For ease of handling, they hold the plate on a little leather bag of sand and go to work with an array of delicate tools. Patience is another tool you begin to notice as the slow hours go by. Patience and skill, know-how in all its glory. This means really intimate work with the dots. Look at a half-tone reproduction with a magnifying glass. Get right down among the dots that are organized to do things to your imagination with printer's ink. These boys can clear out dots that are clogged. Or they can bring up lost dots with the point of a tool and delicate muscle coordination. The tools have efficient names: lining tool, angle tint tool, dot razor, flat chaser, shooter, and a lot more. At first we taught the basic idea of photo engraving. It looked simple, but what we have seen of the actual work are only the highlights. There is still excess metal to be routed out. This is done by machinery, but it isn't automatic. The machine has to be carefully guided by hand, with smaller tools for the very close work. To accommodate some types of presses, some of the plates are mounted on selected cherry wood. After about a week, the plates are ready for proofing. How does it look? Here is another inspection. It may have to go back again to the etchers and finishers for the fine points of perfection. Color proofs involve critical registration and corrections on as many as 4 plates that have required up to 4 weeks to produce. It has taken a long time. A progressive proof shows the impression from each plate proofed in its own color, and how the colors print over each other in the proper rotation. Producing the finished 4-color proof. The job has involved things like special handmade negatives, a host of chemicals most people never hear of, gas burners, dragon's blood, razor-sharp knives, arc lights, staging ink, and acid baths, to say nothing of shooters and draw tools. But also it has involved a feeling for highlights, shadows, tones, and textures. It has involved steady hands, keen eyes, patience, critical microscopic inspections to see if the plates are etched deeply and cleanly enough, and something that is acquired slowly over long years: know-how. A mastery of lines and dots to create pictures, for in advertising, the heartbeat of modern business, the picture is the thing.
That was a glorious deep dive into offset printing. Really quite something there. And before I was collecting films, I was collecting, I did a zine, did a couple of things. So I actually bought printing presses, but I never had the guts to ink them up because the chemicals were kind of they were not super toxic, but they weren't good for you. And basically I had the printing presses in my bedroom, so I would have to ink it up, then I'd have to sleep next to it. And I never got to that point. I did, however, get photocopiers, laser printers, and so I was able to do stuff with that technology. But yeah. Anyway, so that's a glimpse into another world that I love, and a lot of that technology has changed significantly. The ability to print has gotten more and more digital. and less plate related, all that stuff. But speaking of old technology, that's what we do here. We take old technology and ram it through new technology. So behind me is a telecine with film. I'm gonna watch it. It is The Monkey Who Will Be King. Enjoy.
Once, long ago, all the animals of the jungle and of the forest lived together in peace and harmony, under the watchful leadership of the lion, king of the beasts. It was the lion who made sure that the mighty elephant lived in peace with his weaker neighbors, and that the giraffe had enough tall, leafy branches to eat. He tried to keep the otter out of mischief. And would not let anyone frighten the timid deer. All these animals of the forest and the jungle, the lion guarded without rest. All except the porcupine. He had such sharp quills, nobody bothered him. All the animals except the monkey were content. The monkey was never satisfied. One day he overheard the lion say that he was tired of being king. The lion told his friend the parrot that he had been king for many years and wanted to rest now. The monkey ran off to tell the others. The lion's tired of being king. He's going to choose someone else. He told the prairie dog, the lion's going to pick a new king. He told the alligator, too. I hope it'll be me, said the alligator. I have some plans in store for all of you. He told the giraffe, we're going to have a new king. The vain peacock said, naturally the lion will choose me. The monkey was so thirsty from shouting that he went down to the stream for a cool drink of water. Who will the lion choose, he wondered. Not the silly peacock, and certainly not the alligator. He'd eat us all. He thought and he thought. Say, he said to himself, what a wonderful idea. Why not me? If I were king of the animals, I could sleep as late as I wanted to and eat as much as I pleased. Oh, if I could be king. The fox saw the monkey and wondered what he was planning to do. That monkey's up to something, thought the fox. The next morning, the parrot called all the animals together so that the lion could choose their new king. The prickly porcupine had to start for the clearing very early because he was so slow. Then came the zebras. One of us should be made king, they thought, for who else has such wonderful stripes? Then came the timid deer. The proud peacock thought how wonderful he would look with a crown on his head. The skunk knew he would never be chosen. The alligator crept downstream full of evil plans. The flamingos were as excited as could be. Who will be king? Who will be king? They chattered. And finally came the ponderous rhinoceros. Oh, what I couldn't do if I were king, thought the monkey. The parrot told everyone the lion no longer wished to be king. He had governed wisely and well for many years. If anyone wants to be king, said the parrot, let him speak up. Choose me, said the frog. Who? Asked the owl. I'll be king, said the frog. No, me. Not you, said the heron. You'd eat us all. If I'm king, said the chimpanzee, we'll play all day long. We'll dance and jump and sing. What fun we'll have. And who'll do the work, asked the parrot. I should be king, said the elk. Everyone knows I'm Prince of the Forest. The monkey was quiet, thinking of a plan to make himself king. All the animals waited for the lion to decide. Suddenly, the monkey saw the crown hanging forgotten on the limb of a tree. This was his chance. Look what he's doing. He's taking the crown. He's put it on. All the animals wanted to stop him. The fox was furious. But the monkey had been too fast. I'm king, he shouted, and now I can sleep as late as I want and eat as much as I please. Let him be king, said the lion, if he thinks it's fun. Maybe it'll teach him a lesson. That's not fair, said the chimpanzee. He'll never be as fine a king as the lion.
Brom, what does he think he is?
Said nothing, but he thought, I'll find a way to fix you, my greedy friend. Bright and early the next morning, the fox went out hunting in the forest. He remembered a trap he had seen lying in the woods that some hunters had left. The greedy monkey was so busy eating, he had no time to guard the animals and did not notice that the fox was missing. Meanwhile, the fox was still searching for the hunter's trap. Ah, here it is, said the fox. Filled with plump, purple grapes. This is the trap that will catch that greedy monkey. The monkey was lying asleep, full of all the fruit he had eaten. Your Majesty, called the fox, I've found the most wonderful surprise. Fresh, plump, purple grapes waiting to be eaten. But how shall we divide them? There aren't enough for all the animals. The greedy monkey leapt to the ground. Divide them! I'm king, and I get them all. The wily fox led him a long and difficult chase. The monkey followed him eagerly. Who deserves those grapes, if not the king of all the animals, the monkey thought. Just feast your eyes on those plump, purple, perfect grapes, said the fox. And it's so easy to take them. All you have to do is go inside that little box where some careless human has left them. Let me out! Let me out! No, said the fox. You've got to let me out. I'm king. The fox just laughed. Please let me out, said the monkey. I don't care about being king. Let me out and I'll never try to be king again. Are you sure? Asked the fox. Oh, yes, said the monkey. I know I was greedy and foolish. The lion was right. It isn't such fun being king. Please, please let me out. I'll never try to be king again. Well, said the fox, if you've really learned your lesson, I'll get the others to let you free. Hurry, oh, please hurry. If only I could be free, I'd be the happiest monkey in the jungle. All the animals let the monkey out, and the lion became king again, waiting to find someone who would think of the work as well as the rewards of being king. The monkey went back to his own little tree and never wanted the crown again. He learned a real king doesn't need a crown to show he's king. He proves it by what he does.
So that wasn't a monkey, that was I think that was an ape, like a gibbon or something. As somebody pointed out, I think George pointed out on Facebook, all the apes are taking all the good monkey roles in film. So this film actually has program notes in it, and so we can learn a couple of things here. One is the vocabulary. Monkey, lion, elephant, giraffe, otter, deer, porcupine, parrot, prairie dog, alligator, peacock, fox, zebra, skunk, flamingos, goose, rhinos, frog, heron, chimpanzee, elk, and then beast, leadership, neighbor, mischief, timid, quill, satisfied, ponderous, prince, furious, greedy, divide, trap, rewards, and harmony. The other thing that's kind of interesting here is we have this thing that says film continuity, which is basically a script of what's being said and who's saying it. Then below it, there's a damaged film replacement orders. In ordering replacements for damaged portions of film, please refer to the footage figures opposite the scene description. These figures refer to the accumulated footage as measured from the picture start mark in the film leader. All orders should include film title, scene numbers, and footage involved. For example, Monkey Who Would Be King, scenes 2 through 5. After the 25 foot point, end of scene 1, print the next 11 feet. So in this is Encyclopedia Britannica film, but with the Cornet films, we're running across cans of film that were obviously used for that purpose, where they were clipped out for replacement footage. And we've certainly shown films that have replacement footage where the color is beautiful at the beginning of the film, because that's usually what gets damaged. And then suddenly, boom, it goes red and goes like all nasty and everything. And that's because the rest of the film has faded, and they requested, after a shredding of the beginning of the film, the teacher librarian requested replacement footage. So that's how that all works. Here are some, after showing, here are some suggested activities. Let the class share in the telling of the story of the Monkey Who Would Be King in their own words. The teacher can write pupils' words on the blackboard, and then entire class can criticize, oh, great, and try to improve their sentences. 2. The class may dramatize the story. Various animals can be impersonated by different members of the class. I love that activity when I was a kid. 3. The children may enjoy drawings and paintings of various animals shown in the films. 4. The class can draw upon their own experiences in telling or making up stories which show the unhappy consequences of greed or selfishness. So that's what's really great when you get the program notes, is you get all this stuff here, that bonus stuff, including like how a teacher can use the film. I mean, that's the whole idea, is you show the film, then you have the class discuss it, you have the class do these activities, and it kind of, you build on it. It's not just filling time like substitute teachers would do. Thank you so much to Alex and Mitch for the coffee. One way that we can be rewarded by you, or punished, is by us buying us coffee. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/avgeeks. Let's see, what do we want to watch next? So many things, so many films. What about the quest for synthetic fuels? Enjoy.
The Science Screen Report. Developments in science, engineering, and medicine that help solve the problems of modern life. Sooner or later, we're going to run out of oil-based fuels. The search is already underway for synthetic fuels, energy-rich gases and liquids made from organic substances, biomass such as plants, surface and underground coal, shale rock oil, and other materials. This is a report on progress towards tomorrow's synthetic fuels. Short-term energy problems and declining stocks of petroleum have led to efforts to develop synthetic fuels. One such energy source is gasohol, made from plant material. In commercial gasohol production, corn is the main raw material. In this facility, enzymes help speed conversion of cornstarch to a sugary mash, which, fermented by yeasts, yields an alcohol-rich fluid. Proteins, oils, and other byproducts are used as animal feed. The alcohol-rich fluid is processed in distillation towers, the lighter ethanol separated out. The ethanol, combined with gasoline in a 1:9 ratio, is gasohol, sold as super unleaded gasoline with ethanol. Another biomass fuel is ocean kelp, which can be processed into a form of natural gas. Here, an experimental marine fuel farm is harvested using a special clipper-equipped ship. The cutter, a meter below the waterline, collects the plant's surface canopy of leaves and flotation sacs, leaving the body of the plant in the sea. When the ship's hold is full, it delivers the kelp to dockside for processing into methane. This overseas production facility, the largest in the world, currently converts coal to a variety of synfuels. The coal, 40,000 tons a day, is converted to gas in advanced gasifiers, first developed in the 1930s. Coal particles, averaging 4 centimeters across, are fed into the top, steam and oxygen injected into the base. When they meet, particle combustion yields hot gases. As these rise through the coal bed, the steam reacts with the unburned coal's carbon and volatile matter, producing hydrogen, carbon monoxide, and other hydrocarbons. A hot gas emerges from the top, coal ash from the base. Nearby, all the chemical products are separated, leaving only hydrogen and carbon monoxide, the chemical building blocks of synthetic fuels. The purified mixture of gases is injected into a chemical reactor, which is joined by a catalyst. The resulting reactions yield gases, liquid hydrocarbons, and water-rich chemicals. The water-rich chemicals are processed into a range of alcohols and ketones, the raw materials for plastics, paints, solvents, and other chemicals. The hydrocarbons go to a refinery to be made into diesel oil, jet plane fuel, and high-octane gasoline. Coal ash waste is used for bricks and road paving. Effluent water is purified and kept in a closed-cycle system. At Hope Creek, Wyoming, coal deposits not suitable for mining are being converted into synfuels through underground coal gasification. The process starts with the drilling of boreholes to the bottom of coal seams. The coal at the bottom of one well, the injection well, is then ignited. Air or oxygen and steam is forced into the coal seam, and product gases are drawn out of the other well, the production well. To better link the wells, explosive fracturing is used. The fractures allow gases to flow and react more readily. The first Hope Creek test began with explosive fracturing, followed by construction of the gasification system. Another process tested was reverse combustion, setting fire to the coal at the bottom of one well, then injecting air into the other so the air can move through natural cracks to the burn zone, producing a high flow rate that supports combustion. Sensors placed in the boreholes transmitted data on ground motion, temperatures, pressures, and product gas-water content, all recorded by on-site computers. This program demonstrated that underground coal not suitable for mining can be converted to products that may be upgraded into substitute natural gas, methanol, or gasoline. Oil shales are a third type of synfuels. A finely textured sedimentary rock, they hold the organic solid called kerogen, a high molecular weight hydrocarbon. Heated to 900 degrees Fahrenheit, it decomposes to yield oil. This project in Colorado was designed as the first full-scale shale oil extraction plant. Shale mining is carried out by room and pillar techniques, creating huge man-made caves. 20-meter square pillars support the mine roof. 3 double retort structures are designed to process up to 11,000 tons of shale ore daily. The raw shale is first preheated. Then, in a retort, a huge rotating drum, it's mixed with ceramic spheres heated to 1,300 degrees Fahrenheit. The spheres are periodically separated out, heated again, and returned to the retort. After several cycles, enough heat is transferred to raise the shale's temperature to 900 degrees, so its kerogen vaporizes. The spent shale residue is removed, and shale vapors condensed and recovered as liquid and gaseous products at 90% efficiency. The resulting shale oil is comparable to the best natural crude petroleum. Subsequent on-site partial refining or upgrading improves the shale oil's quality. Upgraded, the shale oil can be pipelined to an existing oil refinery for final preparation. In the American Southwest, 700 meters below this installation, underground shale oil production is being carried out. The process is called partial in situ production, both mining and extracting the shale oil underground. Huge man-made rooms provide access to the rock. Then machines drill holes that are charged with explosives. An engineering rendering of the site shows the man-made caves, each the size of a 30-story building. These void chambers provide room for the heated fragments of shale to expand. Explosives emplaced, the void chambers are evacuated of all workers. A triple check ensures no one remains below. Blast timing and sequencing are critical. To promote uniform chemical conversion of kerogen to shale oil, debris must be of uniform size and uniformly distributed in the retort. This precisely planned disruption is the basis of the new technology. Next, inert gas heated to 1600 degrees is injected, warming the debris so the kerogen gives up its shale oil. As the hot gas fills the retort, the shale oil drains to the bottom and is collected. Research is also underway on a number of other synthetic fuels, including tar sands and heavy oil. Like all energy sources, syn fuels have their special drawbacks: many resource inputs, environmental problems, and possible social consequences. However, studies have shown that these can be forestalled or overcome. Oil and gas are not renewable resources, and in time, supplies may run out. The development of synthetic fuels will extend our total non-renewable energy supplies, hopefully until science and engineering perfect tomorrow's renewable energy sources.
Ethanol. Ethanol. I got a list here. Montana. Ovulation. Rutabaga. Puma. Reptiles. What is this? Gemini, of course. Vegetables, protein, abdomen. We're learning all sorts of new pronunciations. Yeah, that was not really synthetic fuels. That was really just, oh, well, so we're just going to do this other thing to get more oil out of things. And we have seen what happens when, in hindsight, we've seen what happens when some of these are put into practice. The negative impacts on things. Really kind of interesting. All right, I got another film set up behind me. This one is a Weston Woods film. In Weston Woods films, there's two types. Well, actually three types. One type is live action. Almost all the films that they do are adaptations of children's books. So some of them are live action, like we've seen. Some of them are animated adaptations. And some of them are what we call iconographic. And this next one is iconographic. And it's basically what we would now call the Ken Burns effect, where you basically have an illustration and then you pan across it and you zoom in and you do all this dynamic stuff. So here's Lentil. Enjoy.
In the town of Alto, there lived a boy named Lentil. Lentil had a happy life, except for one thing. He wanted to sing, but he couldn't. It was most embarrassing, because when he opened his mouth to try, only strange sounds came out. And he couldn't even whistle, because he couldn't pucker his lips.
Hear the wind blow, dear, hear the wind blow. Hang your head.
But Lentil did want to make music. So he saved up enough pennies to buy a harmonica. Lentil was proud of his new harmonica, and he decided to become an expert. So he played a lot, whenever and wherever he could. His favorite place to practice was in the bathtub, because there the tone was improved 100%. Lentil used to play almost all the way to school, down Vine Street to the corner of Main, past the finest house in Alto, which belonged to the great Colonel Carter. Then past the drugstore, the barber shop, and the Alto Library, which was a gift of the great Colonel Carter. And by the Methodist Church, through the Carter Memorial Park, and around the Soldiers and Sailors Monument that the Colonel had built there. People would smile and wave hello to Lentil as he walked down the street, because everyone in Alto liked Lentil's music. That is, everybody but Old Sneap. Old Sneap didn't like much of anything or anybody. He just sat on a park bench and whittled and grumbled. One day, the news got around that the great Colonel Carter, who had been away for 2 years, was coming home. People began to plan a grand welcome, but when Old Sneap heard the news, he said, "We was boys together. He ain't a mite better 'n you or me, and he needs taken down a peg or two." Sneap just kept right on whittling, but everybody else kept right on planning. Colonel Carter was the town's most important citizen. So the mayor prepared a speech. The people hung out flags and decorated the streets. The Alto Brass Band put on their new uniforms, and the printer, the grocer, the plumber, the minister, the barber, the druggist, the iceman, the school teachers, the housewives and their husbands and their children, yes, the whole town went to the station to welcome Colonel Carter. The train pulled in. The musicians in the band were waiting for the leader to signal them to play. The leader was waiting for the mayor to nod to him to start the band. And the mayor was waiting for Colonel Carter to step from his private car. All the people held their breath and waited. Then there was a wet sound from above. There sat Old Sneap, sucking on a lemon. Old Sneap knew that when the musicians looked at him, their mouths would pucker up so they could not play their horns. The whole band looked up at Old Sneap. The mayor gave the signal to play, But the cornetist couldn't play his cornet. The piccolo player couldn't play his piccolo. The trombone player couldn't play his trombone. And the tuba player couldn't play his tuba because their lips were all puckered up. The musicians just stood there holding their instruments and looking up at Sneap sucking on the lemon. The leader looked helpless. The people were too surprised to move or say a thing. And the mayor wrung his hands and wore a look that said, "Can't somebody do something, please?" As Colonel Carter stepped from his car, the only sound was the noise of Sneap's lemon. Clouds began to gather on the colonel's brow, and he said, "Humph." Of course, Lentil's lips were not puckered, and he knew that something had to be done. So he took out his harmonica and started to play "Comin' Round the Mountain When She Comes." When Lentil began to play the second chorus, Colonel Carter smiled. Then he let out a loud chuckle and began to sing, "Driving 6 white horses when she comes." Then everybody sang, and they all marched down Main Street behind the colonel's car. Lentil rode with the colonel, who took a turn at the harmonica when Lentil's wind began to give out. They marched to the colonel's house and paraded through the gate and on to the front lawn. The mayor's committee served ice cream cones to all the citizens. And Colonel Carter made a speech saying how happy he was about such a fine welcome and how happy he was to be home again. When he said that he was going to build a new hospital for the town of Alto, everybody was happy. Even old Sneap.
Wow, so I'm not sure what caused it. Maybe Scholastic, who bought Western Woods, maybe they copyrighted it. I'm not sure what, but the hammer came down on YouTube. Thankfully, it was at the end of the show. So yeah, that was weird. Hopefully there's not ramifications of that push me off of YouTube in the future or puts me in YouTube jail, but because it would be just ludicrous if it was for a film like that. So anyways, thanks for tuning in today. Thank you for the coffee, Alex, Matt, Gabriel, and we will see you again tomorrow. Everybody have a great rest of your day. Take care.